Hello, Aquarius. Welcome to your 2020 overview reading. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it's already 2020, or we're creeping up on it right now. So, let's see. I am going to keep this reading more traditional. I have quite a few traditional decks that I'm going to be using. I hope you enjoy it. Please take a moment to subscribe to this channel so you can get more support throughout 2020. You guys know that I do readings every month, and so you can get more of that. Go ahead and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram for more content, more readings, more interesting stuff. Don't forget to check out my podcast, and if you need to work with me, go to onyxhealing.com, and all sorts of goodness is on my website. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lay this spread out, and then we will get started. All right, let's start with your oracle cards for 2020. First thing, I achieve with integrity. Really being true to yourself. So paying close attention to what feels right, best, and true for you this year is going to be a really important part of your process. It seems like the more authentic you are to your desires and the closer you pay attention to that, the more your achievements are going to be magnetically drawn to you. It's not going to take as much effort as you're thinking. So keep that in mind this year. And then we have curiosity, not jumping to conclusions, but instead just getting yourself in a position where you're curious. You're wondering about what's going on around you or the type of experience you're having. Like, really ask a lot of questions this year, and that's also going to open up a lot of doors as well. Not writing anything off prematurely, and also not jumping to conclusions too soon or making assumptions about the experience. You know, that's what curiosity is like, how can this benefit me, or how can this work for me? Or just coming from more of a neutral space is what's going to help you move through things with grace. And then we also have shadow. False projections rule the day. That's why I said you don't want to jump to conclusions too early. Be lovingly inquisitive. Be curious with the shadow that comes up. Allow the hidden to be revealed and healed. Let the darkness serve to give definition to the light. Okay, so of course I love this card because it's about transforming the shadow. We don't want to smother it. We don't want to suppress it. That's never a good idea, because that's where shadow thrives. So the more you can air it out and be curious with it, the more it's going to shift for you this year. So I think a lot of wounding, darkness, whatever it is that you have kind of bubbling up within you, right? We all have that shadow self that we have to learn how to work with. This is helping you process that and integrate it. And then the angel card is education. There we go. Be willing to, again, it's tied into this curiosity, learning about yourself, learning about the things that you're interested in. Maybe there is like a project or an endeavor that you need to dive into educating yourself on a bit more, and that can be really, really helpful. So just view education as a tool for you in 2020 that can really support you moving forward. Now let's see what the central energy is for you in 2020. Six of Cups. Okay, so I love this card because in part, this is going to help you heal inner child wounds. This is a nostalgic card. It's also about the inner child having fun, doing things that bring you a lot of joy and pleasure that you may have loved as a child. So this is also part of healing the shadow, or not even healing the shadow, but getting it to not take over. You want to meet it with compassion and understanding and do that healing around the inner child. And then also the other thing that's coming through with the Six of Cups is just right timing. You really need to put a lot of faith in timing and just be curious about the path as it's unfolding, not jumping to conclusions. Again, that's not going to serve you this year. The challenge the 3 of Rods. So I'm just getting that you're looking at long-term projects. It was similar for Gemini in the sense that they had some impatience coming up as the challenge, but for you, it seems like creating the vision and sticking to something that you want. So I see it as this nostalgic card in the center of the reading is really great for doing healing work, right? That's an awesome card to have there. But one of the things that can, or a shadow side of the 6 of Cups, is kind of just being distracted and not really rooting yourself in any specific desires. And so you kind of want to be careful being too loose and relaxed about things. I think there are some long-term projects that you already have going on, or that you at least have in the back of your mind. And so I think if you solidify those a bit more, if you are actively curious about exploring what you want more, particularly at the beginning of 2020, it's really going to help you figure out what your next steps are. Because if you're only focusing on how can I just have fun right now, or what's the most expedient thing for me to do right now, it's not going to help you build anything real. And I think that you kind of want to balance both. Like, how can I achieve with integrity, which is the first theme that came up, be curious around your healing, but also root yourself in something more specific or something more solidified that you can work towards. So this is what you have shifting out. We have the 5 of Pentacles. I'm getting a lot of scarcity off of this card. So this should be a big sigh of relief for those of you who are listening. If you've been dealing with money issues, if you've been dealing with feeling like there's not enough time, there's not enough money, there's not enough resources, there's not enough this, there's not enough that. It's kind of like the lack is lifting. And part of the way that you're doing that is, one, by getting a grip on what you're moving towards. That's what the 3 of wands or rods, that's what this card wants you to do. But also enjoying yourself in the process, not forgetting that the healing takes time. You know, being curious about what you're working through is also a priority. So I don't see this as being a particularly ultra goal-oriented year for you. It's more of like that halfway point of figuring out the big life structures and goals that you want to click into place and start working towards, refining that, and doing a lot of healing and repairing internally. That's going to give you a really solid foundation. So be curious within yourself in order to have the future really start to take shape in a way that you want. Because let me explain what I mean by this. If you're asking for things before you're sure or before you're certain of what you want, you're not going to get what you want, or you're going to outgrow it really fast. So taking your time on your vision for the future is really going to be a good strategy for 2020. I would say be slow with your intention setting this year. It doesn't mean you don't set intentions, just think long and hard about them. The oncoming energy is the Ace of Wands. See, and this is why I'm saying take your time with all of that, because the Ace of Wands is saying, look, you've got it. You can put the energy behind it. You can put the time behind it. You can put all of these things behind it. Just make sure that you're really clear, because you've got it. Just take your time getting to this place where you're asking and initiating, and then it's going to have more steam. It's kind of like, don't sit on something for 5 minutes and then make a decision. Take a bit more time to really root yourself in the purpose of it, in the alignment that you have, and that's really going to help you. Now let's look at, this is your career or projects, goals. Think about kind of like what you're aiming at, what you're striving for. We have the 4 of Swords. So this is definitely highlighting what I was mentioning earlier about taking your time, not rushing. You don't want to rush into a decision regarding your goals. It's something where you're going to want to leave a little bit of breathing room for modifications when you can. Don't suffocate what you're manifesting. Don't suffocate your goals. That's not going to work for you. Instead, you want to let them breathe and give yourself and your body the opportunity to integrate the information as it comes through. Because I think you're going to be getting a lot of new information about what you're wanting. That's why I'm saying take your time, because your preferences are evolving in 2020. It's what you thought was good for you is going to shift a lot in 2020. So that's why I'm saying this is learning, exploring, there's education, doing some shadow work, being curious about yourself, figuring out how to really enjoy this experience. And there's slower movement towards goals only because it seems like your preferences are going to be shifting so much that you wouldn't want to glue yourself to something that you're going to outgrow. And then to clarify, the Four of Swords, Six of Wands, slow down to speed up. That's the trick here, is that you really are setting yourself up to get what you want quickly, but in the moment it feels slow because it's counterintuitive to do that, right? Most of the time we think fast action equals fast results. Not in 2020. It's the more contemplation, the more aligned you feel with a goal, the more time you spend really crafting it and figuring out if it's right for you and feeling it out and testing and testing and testing. That is what's really going to hold water for you. And then things are going to move quickly from there. So it's one of those things that don't push the river type of thing. Definitely don't do that. Now let's look at relationships. You can set the intention on this card for whatever you want. Maybe it's romantic, maybe it's not. Maybe you're checking in with a current partnership. Maybe this is more friendships. So just keep that in mind. Whatever you're fixating on right now will work. The High Priestess. So doing a lot of the spiritual, intuitive work is going to help you. The internal work is going to shape the quality of relationships around you. I know it's super cliche of me to say that, but I think it's really highlighting this shadow card to me. False projections rule the day, be lovingly inquisitive. That's actually the secret to repairing relationships and increasing the quality of connection this year. So the more that you can spend some time with yourself, honor yourself, be reflective and curious, it's going to prevent you from projecting onto others, because that can really fatigue relationships quite quickly. It's going to serve you both in your vision of what you want and what you're calling in. And it's just going to really give your quality of life a boost. I'm also getting, for those of you who are interested in partnership, make sure you're taking a spiritual approach to kind of crafting the archetype. That's a strategy I talk about, as far as you kind of want to build the skeleton for what you're asking for. So don't be afraid of more of the spiritual modes to calling in people this year. And then this is money in your material world. So think physical, think money, home, stability. We have the Emperor. You've really got to move into that confident part of yourself. Have a lot of conviction in what you're able to build and what you're able to create and what you have been able to do. Not having confidence, I mean, your confidence is going to fluctuate as it does for everybody, but the Emperor is really highlighting that this is the strategy for you. If you own it, if you claim it, if you are 100% convicted, this is mine, and you really own that part of yourself when it comes to your money and your material resources, that is just going to bolster your manifestations on a physical level. So the Emperor is saying, throw more yang into the mix, throw more masculine energy into the mix. Regarding discipline, discipline will greatly help your material manifestations. So the Emperor, remember, divine masculine is our internal discipline, the discipline that we have for ourselves, being able to, do the work, like do the uncomfortable thing and pushing through. And so that's what this is highlighting here for you. And then the advice for you in 2020 is the Queen of Swords. Yes, I really like this Queen of Swords. So for you, in part, whenever the Queen of Swords comes up, it's that Uranian energy, it's that airy energy of I'm going to do it my way. And so this is also be okay being the black sheep, be okay if you're doing things that are unconventional, be okay if you're not necessarily getting approval from every single person around you, because that's impossible to maintain. And also, if this is something where you're kind of walking more of a lonely path, I don't think that's permanent. I think that that's just kind of one of the elements of what's happening here. So that's not gonna apply for all of you. Some of you might be in a groove that is more of like a lonely track where you're building something and rearranging your life in a way that is a bit more isolating. We all have those seasons. So it just depends on like what walk of life you're on right now, but just keep in mind that's not going to apply for everybody. I'm just throwing that out there if you are in that camp right now. I'm going to clarify this card. Eight of Spades. So it's like you don't really have permission to see beyond you doing your own thing. So I think this is really putting the brakes on in terms of you want to almost orient away from what other people are thinking, what other people's perceptions are. You really need to throw that out the window for the time being. It doesn't mean you don't accept feedback or anything like that, but just keep in mind you're really going to need to be authentic to yourself this year and doing what's best for you. Integrity is big in 2020, and that's going to yield the best results. Stay focused on what it is that's going to empower you. Do the uncomfortable thing that you're not used to doing, and that's going to be what yields the best results. Okay, let's get into the timeline. First, second, third, and fourth quarter. Each one of these quarters is about 3 months. It's a little bit more fluid because we're talking about time, but here we go. First quarter of 2020. Knave of Cups. So this is staying true to your emotions and acknowledging the emotional processes that you have coming up at the beginning of the year. That's probably going to be a focal point of this first quarter, is just moving through, breathing through, and being curious about the emotions that pop up. You know, again, you're doing that work with shadow, and that's what's helping you to kind of draw some connections between things that may have been confusing before or didn't make a whole lot of sense. Your emotions are going to give you the answers that you need, or it's going to help you figure out what's really going on. Quarter two, High Priestess. Okay, so you might feel like your intuition is kind of steering the ship during the second quarter. And I just see this as a time when you can really trust yourself, really practice grounding, practice the part of you that is, that's connecting with that integrity. So it seems like your intuition and your integrity are really connecting in this second quarter. So you're able to feel into what is right for me, what decisions are making sense for me in this moment, and letting that be good enough, like really trusting that. Okay, third quarter, we have the Nine of Coins, hard work paying off. So this is like you reap the rewards of the work that you do in the first half of 2020. Which also means the more you're doing work, that doesn't mean effort. Remember, work and effort are different. It's dependent on what you're working on right now. But it's like the more work you put in, the more true to yourself that you are, the more you're focusing on yourself and doing what's best for you. That really is going to yield great results. And then the less you're doing it, it's just the potency of the Nine of Coins is going to be based on the amount of effort, the amount of work done in this first half. And then wrapping up 2020, we have the Moon. So this is where you go into deeper refinement around what you're wanting, what you're feeling, what's best for you. And this is why I was saying, you know, don't glue yourself to a goal necessarily. Set goals, set intentions. You know, I would be a fool to tell you not to do that, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to have to be okay with your preferences evolving in 2020, and that kind of being the name of the game is not marrying yourself to one particular way of being right now because it's under construction. So your 2020 is really going to be filled to the brim with evolution. And I think this is really exciting for a lot of you. It's just that, you know, you're going to need to have some compassion with yourself. And then go ahead, pick a card. You can ask a question, ask for guidance, whatever it is that you're needing. Card number 1. 9 of Swords. So the nice thing about the 9 of Swords is that it's all in your head. So the 9 of Swords is fear that only exists mentally. So it's not a reflection of what's going to happen. It's a reflection of the internal experience of having fear, anxious thoughts, worried thoughts, all of the, oh my God, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if everything goes to hell, etc., etc. So you can trust that just because you're having the thoughts doesn't mean you have to believe it, and it doesn't mean that that's going to be the way things happen. It's just a mental experience. So working on the internal world and perception is going to help you with whatever that 9 of Swords is about. Card number 2, we have the Hermit. So you kind of need to access your own light. That's really important. I know it's probably hard for the camera to pick up, but there is a guy out on that bridge holding the lantern as is depicted in a normal hermit card. But I'm getting that there's like retreat energy. There's a lot of regeneration. There's a lot of healing, repairing. And it just, again, it's reminding me of that. Don't push the river. You kind of want to allow yourself, I don't know who said that first, but I heard that somewhere. And so that's really coming up in your reading a lot. So just know that, you know, that hermit energy is helping you in this case. It's helping you heal, lick your wounds, repair what needs to be repaired. It's setting you up for a lot of movement. I'm getting that this year is a lot of nesting and doing that type of work. You know, if you're in the hermit mode for all of this, if this is kind of the solution for you, things are going to accelerate quite quickly, but you need to kind of shake off the debris, get everything all fixed up, patched up in 2020, and then you're really going to accelerate from that space. And then card number 3, we have the 5 of Pentacles. Okay, so this card really does remind me of rest, just because this guy is sleeping down here. And I see the 5 of Pentacles is just helping you draw your attention to your focus and your consciousness about things. So if you don't remember, the 5 of Pentacles was over here on what's shifting out. And so this is telling me you don't want to bring that into 2020. You don't want to bring that energy into all of the other good things that you have going on, because it's just a projection. Like this shadow card says, it's a false projection. Just because it happened previously doesn't mean it's bound to happen again. You can shift these patterns at any time. You do have a say in where you're steering the ship. So that's something that can always be worked through, and I think this is reminding you that you probably have more power than you realize, because this feels very disempowering, right? Like, oh no, I don't have any say over the direction that this is going. And that's definitely not the case. It's just saying, hey, you want to wake up a little bit around that and start being honest and having integrity within yourself so that you can start taking aligned action where necessary. For some of you, it might be rest, but for some of you, it might be incorporating some more invigorating activities to help shift you out of that. Thank you so much for joining me today, everybody. I absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget, if you want to know which decks I used in this reading, they are listed in the description box. Don't forget to subscribe so you have more supportive videos throughout your 2020. And don't forget to watch your sun, moon, and rising if you haven't already. And if you want to know how to work with me one-on-one, go to onyxhealing.com or check out the description box for all of the fun stuff that I have to offer. And until next time, have a beautiful 2020, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.